Merry Christmas everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Open Great League with some Christmas themed costume Pokemon, starting off with the team on screen right now with a Lucky Hundo Delibird that I obtained just 2 days ago, which is of course great timing, as well as 2 of the new costume Pokemon for the event this year with Charjabug and Sudowoodo. And then for the final few battles at the end, I'll be using one of the Christmas costume Pikachus from last year's event in place of Sudowoodo. Now the Pikachu team was actually the original team that I tried, but unfortunately it was nearly impossible to get any wins with it, and I actually needed some enjoyable gameplay for this video, so I did swap it out for Sudowoodo to get a few more wins. But anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What has been your favorite holiday event in Pokemon Go this year? Let me know in the comment section down below, let me know why, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle, leading Delibird into Altaria. Now, I have to say, Delibird was an absolute nightmare. This thing felt basically useless in every single battle, aside from this one battle where Icy Wind does insane damage. Of course, that is double super effective, so you would expect it. I'm going to shield here, expecting a flamethrower. It was just a sky attack, but they swap into Medicham. And a few seasons ago, Delibird gained access to Fly, and Fly does huge damage there as well. At this point, we're going to come in with the Charjabug. I'm going to no-shield this, just an Ice Punch, doesn't deal that much damage, and we get a full Volt Switch farm down. To come back in with Altaria, I probably could have committed to a full farm down there, but I panicked. I go for X-Scissor, X-Scissor gets the KO, and that final Pokemon going to be Galarian Moltres, and this is going to be a very comfortable routine win for me. As we go for X-Scissor, we can now swap into Sudowoodo. I do not need to shield this. The opponent goes for an undercharge with the Fly there, expecting the shield, and they realize there's nothing they can do, and so they do allow a full Rock Throw farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there into the next battle. You can see Malamar in the lead, so a fairly neutral matchup here, except Delibird is definitely going to be losing every single neutral matchup. So I'm going to no-shield. They actually full sent a superpower, which is going to do a little bit more damage than the foul play. However, it debuffs to the defense. That Fly does respectable damage, and now I come in with my Charjabug. I'm going to no-shield this as they have debuffed their attack stat. Foul play doesn't deal too much damage there. And then they come in with a Tentacruel, which is certainly not bad for the Charjabug. Unfortunately, I'm not running Discharge here. Originally, I just got X-Scissor and Crunch as my 2 charge moves, and I didn't really want to use any charge DMs. Oh, and by the way, a really good tip right now is if you have reached Tier 3 on the December Battle Pass, or Go Pass, whatever it's called, you get extra items from winning raids, and the items are insane. I've done a bunch of Mega Raids, and I've got as much as 8 charge TMs in just a single raid. The downside is, unfortunately, like, Mega Raids just don't seem to exist during the current event, so it's been really hard to find them, but you can also do Tier 3s for guaranteed charge TMs. Anyways, we get a full one-shot with the Meteor Beam, and I'm able to take that game. But yeah, for those of you that are struggling with charge TMs, like I am, definitely try and take advantage of that if you can. Into the next battle, we're going to see a Politoed in the lead, so of course, they're on Mud Shot. We are double resisting it. I'm going to no-shield this, just going to be a Weather Ball. Weather Ball is going to deal quite a lot of damage there. I'm going to be honest, actually, before building Delibird, I didn't bother looking into its stats, so I have no clue what its attack stat is. If it's decently bulky, I mean, we can clearly see it's not bulky at all, but yeah, I don't really do that too often, but I do recommend, if you're going to build a Pokemon, especially if it's level 50, like, maybe look into, like, if it's got any decent stats, and, like, you know, if it's going to win CMP up against certain Pokemon. But anyways, we're going to come in with a Sudowoodo. I will just shield this. Could be like a Drill Run or a Scorching Sands or something, and we're actually able to go for a full Rock Throw farm down, which is huge for me. To come back in with the Politoed, I'm going to swap out, make the catch back onto Delibird, and hopefully Sudowoodo can sweep in the end game. However, this was the first battle I did with the Sudowoodo, and unfortunately you can see I'm not running Trailblaze here, so I'm going to go for Meteor Beam. Meteor Beam is going to boost up my attack stat, and hopefully that will allow a Rock Tomb to get the KO. However, they debuff me once again with the Bubble Beam. I need to commit to the Meteor Beam. Rock Tomb wouldn't cut it from that range, and unfortunately we do end up losing that game. I think I lost one other battle due to not having Trailblaze, so I did eventually TM it over. But into the next battle, we are going to see a Jellicent in the lead. I'm going to swap here, catch the charge move onto my Charjabug, but also make sure I swap out in time to get a Volt Switch through. That way, I'm able to reach a Crunch up against the Charizard. Now, Charizard would be able to tank it, but of course, probably expecting a Discharge, they end up using a Shield. Now, I've got a really good answer to Charizard in the form of Sudowoodo. However, I'm still going to use a Shield anyways, even if it is a Blast Frost Burn, that would do quite a lot of damage. So shield, it actually ends up being a Dragon Claw, which is neutral damage, so I don't mind that shield. They're going to come back in with the Jellicent, and this time I am running Trailblaze. However, I'm not sure if it would have got the KO from that range, so I didn't throw straight away, and then I'm able to make a catch onto my Delibird. And actually, at this point, I've put them into range where Fly probably gets the KO, so we fire it off, but the opponent makes a really nice catch there, catching the Fly onto Togekiss. However, they are on Charm. Charm not going to generate energy very fast, and as a result, we get the full Rock Throw farm down before they reach the Aura Sphere. We come out with back-to-back Trailblazers. First one grabs the final shield. Trailblaze number 2 will be enough damage to easily take out the Jellicent, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. We see Whiscash in the lead. So once again, another Pokemon running Mudshot as the fast move where it is going to be double resisted. So I can now go for an Icy Wind here. And if the opponent does farm up a ton of energy, they might be full sending a Blizzard. So you know what? We debuffed them, but I'm actually still going to shield anyways, respect the damage here. And the opponent does full send it. So of course, I am part ice, so that would be neutral damage. It probably still one-shots me anyways, as Delibird, as we've seen, isn't exactly the bulkiest Pokemon around. But at this point, I am now going to start going for these Flies. Fly, of course, is just a much better charge move in terms of its damage output. It's not going to debuff them, but I don't need to debuff the fast move damage. We are going to go for the Fly there, and I can reach another Fly before they get to the next Blizzard. Maybe I could have overfarmed just slightly, but either way, we get the KO, but they come in with a Bastiodon, and that is a nightmare Pokemon for this team. Of course, Sudowoodo does actually have access to Earthquake, however, not running it, I don't think it is the play here, and whilst Trailblaze is going to be neutral, whilst Meteor Beam is going to be resisted damage, Meteor Beam is such a good move that likely it does more damage than the Trailblaze, although maybe if we threw the Trailblaze earlier and boosted up our Rock Throw damage, maybe that would have added up over time, but either way, doesn't really matter too much. We're going to swap out, catch the move onto Delibird as they full send the Stone Edge, and now we can go for 2 Volt Switches, making sure to throw on good timing. Crunch is going to put them into range where I can Volt Switch farm them down, and do they have something in the back we can beat? Unfortunately, no, they don't, as they have an Altaria. I'm going to go for Crunch anyways. Maybe we can get a defense debuff, but no debuff there. We can reach a second Crunch, throwing on CMP here, winning CMP with the Charger Bug. Crunch number 2 does drop the defense, but likely it wouldn't have made a difference there if we got the defense drop on the first one. We still would have lost. So unfortunately, GG's to that trainer there. We do end up losing, but into the next battle, we're going to see Delibird into Diggersby. So another ground-type Pokemon. So I did get pretty lucky when I was running this team with the Delibird leading into a lot of ground-type Pokemon, although Diggersby's still actually going to win this matchup anyways because they have access to Fire Punch. But the first time I ran this team here with the Pikachu in the back, basically every single lead Delibird was hard losing. I was seeing like Bastiodons, Credillies, Rollout, Blastoise, Dunsparce, like all sorts of things with rock type moves, and it was just absolutely insane, and it was just a real rough time. But anyways, at the moment we're going for another Icy Wind here, as we have debuffed them twice. I tanked the Fire Punch. Icy Wind is going to grab the final shield, and now I feel comfortable coming in with my Charger Bug. Of course, Charger Bug usually not going to have a very good matchup into Diggersby, but they were triple debuffed there, so they actually swap out of that matchup into a pretty bad matchup here, just because they want to clear the debuff. Now we go for Crunch. Crunch, unfortunately, not going to cut it here, but it does put them into farm down range, and the opponent going to go for another Air Cutter. They do get the boost this time, but it is a little bit too late for them, as now we've got back-to-back X-Scissors. First one coming through is of course going to connect, and the second X-Scissor will get the KO. So it really just depends what is their final Pokemon. I swap out straight away, and they've got a Toxapex. Now on paper you might think, oh, that's not ideal for us, but of course they've got Poison Jab as the fast move, and Brine is not a very good charge move there. So Sudowoodo, despite not having the best stats or in terms of the IV spread, is able to tank it, and Meteor Beam does insane damage. It puts them into range where 1 Volt Switch from my Charger Bug should be able to fully farm them down. I'm able to take out the Toxapex, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. You see the Novan Stunfisk in the lead. So this is a very tricky core breaker for me. I'm going to stay in initially, of course. They are on Thunder Shock, so they are dealing super effective fast move damage. But what I'm hoping to do is if they threw straight away there, they might throw straight away the second time around, in which case I will look to try and catch it onto my Charger Bug. I'm able to debuff them with the Icy Wind, and I get the catch there. Not only that, I get the Volt Switch through as I'm able to swap out 1 turn early. Then they come in with a Regieleki. Are you kidding me? What is this insane Spice. Unfortunately for them, though, it cannot tank a move. I don't know why they didn't shield that. But either way, I'm going to no-shield this. Thunder Cage is resisted damage there. If they wanted to hit for neutral damage, they would have had to full send a Hyper Beam. I would know that because I do enjoy using Regieleki. But anyways, we're going to go for back-to-back X-Scissors here. And I believe this might be a CMP tie. So X is at number 2 coming through, and it is going to, of course, connect. The opponent fires off the charge move. They go for Mud Bomb. I'm going to come in with my Sudowoodo. I'm able to swap and make the catch onto my Delibird here, and expecting that's going to be a Mud Bomb. But unfortunately for me, they're barely not in present farm down range. That is agonizing. I'm forced to throw the charge move there. If I got the full farm down, maybe we had a chance there because I could land the Icy Wind, either debuff their attack stat and grab a shield, or maybe just obviously have them no shield it, and then the rock throws might be able to fully farm them down. But unfortunately, because we had to throw there, the opponent able to reach back-to-back charge moves. Aura Will takes out my Sudowoodo, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up in there into the next battle. We see Walrein in the lead, so not ideal for me. Going to be safe swapping into my Charger Bug, and the opponent will fire a charge move. The opponent going to go for the Icicle Spear there. That's fine with me. Now, of course, I'm not running Discharge. They're staying in, so probably quite weak to the Charger Bug in the back. But I have to go for X-Scissors, and it just barely doesn't put them into Volt Switch farm down range, meaning I'm forced to throw a second time. They're now going to come in with a Talonflame, which is actually still fine for me, as we've got a Sudowoodo here. We're, of course, going to come in and go for a full Rock Throw farm down. The opponent just barely able to reach a charge move. Everything's resisted, but you know what? I've got 2 shields here, and I'm going to use it. So at this point, the opponent comes in with more Peko, but this time we're in a much better position as I've got an energy advantage. I can go for that Trailblaze straight away, and we can deal big damage with the Rock Throws. The opponent full sends an Aura Will there, so I'm going to look to make a catch for the next Aura Will, and this should easily take out my Delibird, which means we can come back in with a Sudowoodo. Hopefully, one more Rock Throw gets the full farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's top on there into the next battle. We see Medicham in the lead. So this is a bit of an awkward matchup. It is, I guess, technically somewhat okay for us because we do have access to fly. But these counters are actually dealing quite a lot of damage. But the opponent no shields. So now I'm going to swap into Charger Bug. And unfortunately for me, the opponent does not use any energy, and then they hard punish with a Bastiodon. So that's definitely not ideal in the slightest. The opponent looks like they're committing to a full farm down, so I'm going to go for another crunch here. If they do commit to a full farm down, I should be able to reach a third crunch, and crunch probably won't KO, but it might put them into range where I can Rock Throw farm them down, so the opponent actually ends up using a shield. Now my Delibird is just completely useless here. I come in with the Sudowoodo. Unfortunately, I do not get my fast move through, which isn't ideal. However, honestly, I don't feel like there's a lot we can do in this battle anyways. Gonna shield the next move regardless. They come in with a Whimsicott. I can swap out, and hopefully I'm gonna grab a shield here with the Icy Wind. However, I just don't think it really matters. The opponent gets the full charm farm down. I recognize there's nothing I can do, so I'm just gonna no shield this. Seed Bomb easily takes out Sudowoodo, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle, and we are into the bonus battles with the level 50 Pikachu. Now we're leading into Credilli here, so this is a bit of an awkward matchup. Of course, I am resisting the fast move damage. Rock Tomb, even if I debuff them like several times with an Icy Wind, it's double super effective. It will easily take out the Delibird there, and we are going to paste the same to the charge move. So I'm actually going to swap out, make a catch for the next Rock Tomb. However, unfortunately, Credilli kind of core breaks the team there, so I'm forced to catch it onto a second Pokemon that also takes super effective from the Rock Tomb. They now come in with a Ferrothorn, which is actually a really positive matchup for my Charger Bug. However, I am debuffed. I'm also very low. The opponent's now just going to take this opportunity to overfarm massively. They go for a Power Whip there. I believe they are one away from the next Power Whip, which means I'm now going to look to overfarm. And they've actually already got the energy for a Thunder, so I'm going to shield this. I probably should have thrown slightly sooner, but I wasn't sure if a Fly would KO from that range. Then I'm going to come back in with Credilli. Icy Wind gets the KO, but their final Pokemon is Lantern, and unfortunately, they've still got both their shields in play, so I don't think there's much I can do here. unless the opponent tries to go for a 2-shield flex. So they go for a Surf. I'm able to tank it. I did not throw because I wanted to wait until we got to back-to-back wild charges to throw these, as of course the second one is going to deal decent damage here. The opponent is finally going to use a shield. We now come in with the Delibird. I'm going to fire off the Fly. Fly is resisted, but it actually does respectable damage there, and I do reach an Icy Wind. However, unfortunately, Present just doesn't deal any damage whatsoever, so the opponent can fire off the charge move. The opponent goes for an undercharge with the Surf for some reason. I think my opponent is actually going for a flex up against a team with a Delibird and a Pikachu. Like, what is that? But anyways, GG's to that trainer there. Into the next battle, we are going to see Delibird into Clodsire. So this matchup really just depends on whether they're on Stone Edge or not. If they've got Stone Edge, it's an awful matchup for me. If they don't have Stone Edge, then actually we should be okay here. Now, the opponent goes for a Water Pulse, which is not what I was expecting, but of course, we are able to tank it. I can go for Icy Wind. Icy Wind, you can see, actually is not enough damage to even two-shot them up against the Clodsire, but we can still deal super effective damage. We can debuff their attack stats. And you know what? I'm actually going to shield here because I don't really have that much play with the rest of my team up against Clodsire. So if I can maybe grab both shields or put them into range where maybe I could even Volt Switch farm them down, then that would be ideal. Also, of course, they are triple debuffed here, so this is not going to do much damage. They full send the Earthquake, but we tanked that incredibly comfortably. Maybe I could have overfarmed slightly more than that, but I didn't really want to take any more damage from charge moves, even if it was a Water Pulse. But they come in with a Lantern, and this is actually a great matchup for the Charger Bug, as of course I am resisting the fast move damage whilst they are dealing, whilst I'm dealing neutral damage, with the Volt Switches. They fire off the Surf. I'm just going to go straight for X-Scissor here. I need to make sure I get off the charge move, and we're actually able to grab the final shield. So at this point, I'm thinking, you know what? Maybe they are weak to the Pikachu in the back. So I'm going to shield here. They fire off the Surf, and now I'm going to look to massively overfarm. I farm up to 99 energy. I full send the Wild Charge here. Wild Charge gets the KO, and their final Pokemon is a Talonflame, but they're on Fire Spin, so I'm not entirely certain that the Wild Charge will get the one shot, but I'm at back-to-back charge moves, so I go for Surf first, and we can go for a Wild Charge. Wild Charge takes out the Talonflame, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent into the next battle. We see Wigglytuff in the lead. So, a bit of an awkward matchup for me. I can very comfortably outpace them here to an Icy Wind before they can go for their own Icy Wind, which I assume they probably will do here. Although, actually, maybe not. They'll maybe just go for a Surf. It's not a, what the heck? Not a Surf, a Swift, sorry. We are going to actually shield here because now, since I've thrown Icy Wind, I don't expect them to shield this. And Fly does decent damage. We can go for a Volt Switch, get the farm down, but unfortunately, they come in with a Gourgeist. However, we've got access to Crunch. The opponent does not respect it, but it doesn't really deal that much damage. So honestly, I'm not really sure what I can do at this point. Kind of have to shield this just because Pikachu is just not going to be able to output much damage whatsoever in this matchup. But we go for X-Scissor. X-Scissor is going to grab the first shield, and the opponent committing to a farm down allows me to reach another X-Scissor, and they do actually let that go down, and their final Pokemon is a Celio. So at this point, I'm going to fire off the Surf here, hoping to grab the final shield. I'm hoping that Pikachu can tank any one charge move coming from the Celio, but honestly, these Powder Stones have already got us into the yellow. Unfortunately, Surf easily takes me out there. They're one away from the Body Slam. Body Slam will be taking out the Charger Bug, and they can Powder Snow, farm down the Delibird. And unfortunately, we do lose that game. But GG's up in there into the final battle of this video, leading into Greninja. Not a great lead matchup for me. Going to be safe swapping into Charger Bug, and the opponent responds with a Jumpluff. Now, they throw very early. This is just going to be an Aerial Ace, which I can tank pretty comfortably as well. So, honestly, we do have the opportunity to potentially try and flip this matchup here. But I'm going to look to overfarm massively, go for another X-Scissor. X-Scissor number 2 coming through is actually going to be double shielded. And you know what I'm thinking? You know what? I don't need to shield here. We can just deal decent damage. We've grabbed both shields. Hopefully, we should be fine in the end game. X-Scissor is going to connect, but the opponent committing to a farm down. Charger Bug gonna end up grabbing both shields and flipping switch advantage. That is huge for me because the opponent's final Pokemon is a Parasect. One of the only Pokemon where Delibird actually has a very comfortable matchup against, as of course, they can go for Cross Poison. We can go for a Fly. We need to make sure they don't catch it onto Greninja, which they don't. Fly, double super effective, easily easily gets the one shot, and Pikachu has a 2 shield advantage. All I need to do, shield up the Hydro Cannon, they're not going to reach another charge move. We can now full send a Wild Charge, and at this point I believe the opponent might have just exited out of the app here. Wild Charge eventually, when it does connect, easily takes out Greninja, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.